Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of the Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast. I'm your host, Ashwin. I'm joined by DJ. DJ, it's been funny. We've been kind of going from these crazy highs, the Asia Cup, the announcement of the T20 World Cup squad, to a week where Indian men didn't actually play any cricket. And so we'll get a chance to talk a little bit about the women's series and preview the Australia T20s. But how are you doing? Did you need a little bit of a break, or are you ready to go straight into the next season of cricket, which leads us straight into the World Cup?
No, I'm pretty excited. The India T20 jersey has just been revealed, so I'm going to be placing my pre-order because, as you guys know, I'm going to be in Australia this time next month, right, to watch the T20 World Cup, which is going to be exciting. So I've just ordered a jersey, and yeah, it's things. There's still things to talk about, even in a week where India men haven't played, right? Like the confusing press conferences our skipper has just put out with conflicting signals, and 15 years of the hitman, as SS98 in the comments has just pointed out.
Yeah, that's I didn't actually realize that. So thank you for the comment. But what does that mean? 15 years since Rohit made his debut? I assume so.
It must be right because
Yeah.
2007 he must have made his debut in 2007, so it's 2022. Yeah, what a career it's been
Yeah,
for
and
the
lots
India
more to
all
come.
format skipper.
And of course lots more to come. So yeah, like you said, I mean, very excited for you, but a little jealous of you that you're going to be in Australia. I think that's going to be an amazing
You did
time.
get the invite, you just didn't
I
make it
did.
out.
I did. Unfortunately, travel didn't allow for it this year. But DJ, let's maybe start by talking a little bit about the upcoming series against Australia, the men's series, and then in the back half of the show, we'll talk a little bit about the India women's series. It's been a fascinating seesaw against the England women after three T20s and then an ODI that is already concluded. Let's start a little bit with kind of the squad, right? And I'm not going to get into the details of the India squad for the Australia T20s. Actually, let me first ask you, why are we playing three T20s against Australia, then three T20s against South Africa, and then playing three ODIs as the last three matches we would play before the T20 World Cup? Like, wouldn't it have made more sense to wrap up with T20s so those are fresh and top of mind? What's the logic in playing three ODIs the week before the World Cup?
I don't know whether the guys going to the T20 World Cup are going to be playing those three ODIs, to be honest. I think,
So you think that's unrelated?
yeah, I think it's unrelated. I think they'll play the T20s against Australia. They'll play the T20s against South Africa, and then they'll rest before they take a bit of a
Okay,
break
I
before
don't hate
moving
that
straight
as much.
down
I
on
think
them.
it's just a little silly that we're playing ODIs the week before the T20. Like we've been prepping T20. Anyway, that's not what I was going to ask you about. Let's start. Let's start with Muhammad Shami, right? Not not exactly. Not exactly what we expected, I guess, is where I'm going. Right? So he was ruled out. I think it was yesterday with COVID, so unable to play the series, unable to go. Sorry, to he didn't go to Lucknow for the first T20 against the Australia team. And who was slotted in as a replacement was Umesh Yadav, right? I mean, I've said before I'm a big fan of Umesh, the test bowler, on this show, but was that what you expect? Like, if somebody had asked you to predict if we needed one extra quick bowler, is that where you think in Team India would have gone?
Not in, I don't know. I mean, Umran Malik was there. He had Mohsin, who did well in the IPL this year as well. I mean, Navdeep Saini's been around as well. So it wasn't, isn't an obvious choice, but he had a decent IPL this year. You have to remember, he takes wickets with a new ball, particularly as I think you say when he's wearing a headband, right? Umesh with the headband is a lethal force, and he's played a lot of cricket. He's toured Australia before. He's still in the reserves. Well, he's not actually. Sorry, he's not in the reserves for the Australia tour because hopefully Shami would have recovered by then. But it may have been a chance to look at Umran Malik a little bit more because he hasn't had a full run right in India colours so far. But maybe an opportunity missed there. I don't know what the status of Avesh's injury is. Is he back as well or?
He
Uh,
is not in the squad. I'm unclear if
mm,
that's the fever that he had after his pretty bad performances or um, something else. So,
no comment. I'm not
no
going to
comment.
speculate as to the status of his
All
health,
right.
but
Let me
yeah.
just ask you though, if you're a selector or Rohit, do you think an element of picking up the phone and calling Umesh is the fact that we just like obviously the Asia Cup didn't go the way we wanted, right? Our quick bowling did let us down a little bit. Now you sit there saying, okay, Bumrah and Harshal weren't there; they'll come back. Bhovi had a pretty good series. I mean, he had a 5 wicket haul and a 4 wicket haul, and then two matches in between that weren't great. But do you think that somewhere the selectors were like, listen, the youth didn't deliver what we needed them to in the Asia Cup? Maybe for this upcoming World Cup, given that we already have Harshal in the squad, we look to more experience just to have more backup experience, or was Umesh just is Umesh not going to play? Right, the squad has Bhuvi, Harshal, Cheher, and Bumrah already as quicks with Hardik as your fifth. So is Umesh just flying in as a replacement, but is not
Yeah,
actually
and
going to play?
he's a replacement. Plus, Shami will be fit in a month's time, I'd expect. So I don't think Umesh will make the trip down under anyway, right?
So
So
what's the logic of like of pulling him to come play here?
your
Great.
guess is as good as mine,
All right.
man. I can't believe
Silence
we
kills
spent the
everything.
first 6 minutes of the show talking about Umesh Yadav.
I mean, this was the headline when I started thinking about what we're going to talk about, and I
That's
was
just
just
on your
shocked.
phone when you've got
That's
like
true.
Google Alert
I've
set up for Umesh Yadav,
got everything set
India
up just
colors.
for Umesh. All right, let's talk about this press
Maybe we can get
conference.
Manish Pandey in the squad as well. That would make your day.
That would be lovely. I don't actually. I mean, I think I looked through the rest of this squad, and I don't actually see any other surprises. Right, I'll run through it quickly for you for
Hmm.
us together, DJ. But Rohit, Rahul, Kohli, Surya Kumar Yadav, Deepak Huda, Rishabh Pant, and DK as your kind of
Yeah.
core batsmen. Hardik Pandya and Akshar Patel, if you will, as your
Hmm.
all rounders, and then Ravi Ashwin, Chahel, Bhuvi, Harshal, Deepak Chahar, Bumrah, and Umesh Yadav. So actually, we covered a lot of this last week. If you haven't heard
Yeah.
us dig into the squad for the World Cup, go back to one episode from 1 week ago and listen to that because we covered a lot of that. That's the only reason I was talking Umesh. So let's actually we've got a couple of interesting questions coming in the comments. One from Obama Chan Studios, which is a funny name.
I think
Has
this is one of
Washington
our Discord listeners. So
Yeah.
hello
So
to
so
the
thank you
Discord
for
fam.
listening and for writing in. For those of you who are listening on YouTube live, please take this opportunity to like the stream and hit the subscribe button. It helps us a lot. But the question is, has Washington been totally forgotten by India's selectors? So he says he's been sidelined in the presence of Akshar, but he seems pretty like for Jadeja. If IPL merits selection, then he should be ranking right along Patel. Thoughts? And this is something I've said before as well, DJ. So where are you at on Washington Sundar?
I think he's injured, right? He's had a lot of injury issues, and honestly, I actually see Washington as Ashwin's successor, not only in Test matches, firstly, and then um, T20. He would have been in if he hadn't been injured. He's had a lot of injury troubles, to be totally honest. He would have been in contention, possibly in place of Ashwin, because he's a bit better with the bat. He can bowl in the power play to start off with, so he would have been fighting for first 11 spot. Akshar Patel, interestingly, I don't know whether we're just sort of assuming that he's going to slot in for Jadeja. I don't know whether he takes that spot, or whether Huda plays instead of Akshar. To be totally honest with you, because we may want to shore up our batting a little bit, and Huda can give the 2-3 overs that you need. And I think we've been jumping to conclusions slightly that Akshar will just slot into the playing 11. I think there will be some rejigging around that in due course, depending on who's available on the day. But I don't think he's been forgotten by the selectors. Coming back to the original question, it's just a case of him being injured and not being fit. And obviously, you can't take a chance on a player that's not 100%, right? I think he's back playing domestic now, so that's good signs for Indian cricket generally.
Yeah, I did hear he's back going to play for Tamil Nadu. So hopefully, I remember when he started the English county season, he looked pretty good. It was just, to your point, unfortunate that the injury cut it short. So I think he's 22 years old. If he can figure out his injuries, he obviously has a bright future across the board. I think yeah, you had anything to add?
No, I was saying, speaking of the English county season, did he say Mohammad Siraj? He picked up 5 on his county debut.
All I
How
saw is the
happy were you
clips
for
that
that?
were all around Twitter. It was unbelievable. And he seemed fired up, right? He was
So
just running
good.
in hard bowling. Yeah, so it's great. I think this is going to be
He
a
got Imam out, I think, as well. So that
Oh,
was
did he? I didn't
a
see that.
nice
Yeah.
little India-Pakistan subtext to that. And I think Jayant Yadav's playing alongside him as well. So nice for Siraj to have some India company.
Yeah, agreed. All right, DJ, let's talk a little bit about this article that you seem to be a little baffled by, which is the press
Uh,
conference that Rohit Sharma gave. So it sounds like you already have a point of view, but I'll just quickly summarize that. Kohli obviously made his 71st century after a 1,000-day drought, which we can still celebrate, but it came at the top of the order in uh, T20s batting for Team India. And so Rohit has just given a press conference where he said, in the World Cup, basically Rahul will open, and we are not traveling with a third opener, right? A backup opener. And so Kohli it can obviously open. He said he opens for his franchise. He's done really well. It's a definite option with us. So essentially saying, I believe Rohit and like Rohit obviously will open. So he says Rahul will open with me, and Kohli will currently bat at three, but it's a good backup option for an opener.
no,
What are your
but he also
thoughts? Why
said
we?
Kohli will open in some games. What does that
Oh,
mean?
did he say that? I'm trying to look through the. I'm not looking at the headlines. I'm looking through like the verbatims of the press conference to make sure I
Oh,
truly
you're
understand.
doing the real detailed research. That's very,
Well, I just want to make sure. We tend to misquote things in the media a little bit.
but that's fun,
Yeah,
right?
he says I've had a chat with Rahul Bhai that we will have to open with Virat in some matches because he's our third
Yeah.
opener. We saw that in the last
So,
match. Now, I think that's more assuming there will be some injuries and stuff over the course of a long tournament. I don't know if that's as much saying. He said like we saw in the last tournament. Like anyway, keep going. Let's assume they're saying they're going to rotate it a little. Why do you hate it so much?
I don't know. I think he just sets conflicting signals. Unless he's playing a deeper game of like confusing the opposition, like they don't know who's going to turn out one day. But I mean, but what is the message then you're sending to someone like Pant or DK, right? Like if Rahul doesn't play and Kohli opens, that means that DK and Pant will both play the game. So, and what about Huda? Where does he fit into all of this situation?
No, I mean, but those are unrelated to kind of like those are going to be confusing questions anyway, right? You're saying
Yeah.
your issue is that Rohit said Kohli may open once in a while. That's why I'm a little confused.
Yeah, if you're saying that if somebody is injured, then yeah, he may open. And he
Yeah,
talks about flexibility and all of that stuff. But I mean, I don't know who India's openers are, and does India know who India's openers are?
I
Because
think
you
what
basically said Rahul will open with me, but Virat may open in some matches.
I heard it as, hey, normally you travel with openers and you travel with a third opener, right? We always do most
Hmm.
tournaments, etc. And he's
But we
saying
have Sky also who's opened the batting. Remember?
yeah, so what Rohit is saying is Sky is going to stay at his position, and if there's a need to change openers in some games, Kohli slots up. We are not traveling with, I don't know, a
Uh,
Gill or a Gaikwad
so
or any of these backup openers because we'd rather rejig our batting order, change the lower order, and play Kohli up. Then let's say Rahul gets injured, slotting in a whole new guy just to protect Kohli at three and Sky at four doesn't make sense, and I'm okay with that actually.
and so, do you think that he's accounting for his own injuries as well in this? Because he does have a history of getting injured
I mean,
during
it's
long
possible.
tournaments.
It's
Unfortunately,
possible. We have a backup captain also now. Then I guess.
who's the backup captain now? I've
I mean, it's
literally
got to be.
is it Rahul?
I was going to say I was joking about Kohli
I've
having
lost track.
captained in World Cups before, but Rahul can captain, Pant can captain, Hardik can captain. We got lots of captains in this squad.
Yeah, cool.
But
Also,
anyway,
man, did you follow the Sanju Samson drama?
I don't think so. What did I miss?
Because apparently, Sanju Samson fans were really upset that he was left out of the T20 squad. So there's going to be some protests and stuff at the India Australia games
Oh man!
because they're being held. One of them is being held in Kerala. Uh,
And by the way, the
and
first one
then
is in Mohali.
Samson,
I said Lucknow mistakenly. I meant Mohali. But anyway, keep going.
yeah, but one of them is going to be held in Kerala, right? There's a game
Yeah,
in Kerala.
I'm seeing Mohali, Nagpur, and Hyderabad.
Oh, but what about South Africa? Is there a
Oh,
game against
maybe
South
one of the
Africa
South
in
Africa
Kerala?
games will be. Yeah,
Because
I,
apparently there's a plan for by the Sanju Samsung fan brigade to disrupt a game. And so I don't know. This is all social media conspiracy theory, which we take as gospel truth
yeah,
clearly.
yes. The
But Sanju
first
came
the
out and said,
first South Africa T20s in Thiruvananthapuram.
yeah.
So that's in
So
Kerala.
Sanju came out and said, "Listen, it's very hard to break into the team, and like he played it pretty well, to be honest. Like he was
Okay,
very
good.
chilled about it. But this is exactly what we say, right? Like Sanju must be in the squad. When he's in the squad, and you play him and you're like, oh, he hit such an ugly shot and he's got out. I've lost
But he'll
patience with
play
him.
his first match will be great. He'll almost guaranteed score above 50
We should
off in
just
a
play him
century.
directly in the
Just play him
final then.
one match and then drop him. Yeah, that's it. Just bring him in for one important match and then drop him.
Knockout games.
That's it. All right, we
Yeah.
can talk about this forever, DJ. There's, like I said, because there hasn't been a lot happening in the world of cricket, this is going to be a short episode. So why don't we take a quick break? Let's come back and talk a little bit about the India women's series. But actually, before we do that, predictions: India Australia 3 T20s.
Well,
There's been a
it's
lot of
the
there's been a
world's
lot of
number one team versus the world champions, right? Remember, this is Australians are the T20 world champions, so there's going to be a lot of like there's subtext to it. You've got Zampa versus Kohli, you've got Cummins versus Rohit, you've got Bumrah versus Warner.
you
So I
got
mean,
Finch who just retired, who just who publicly backed Steve Smith to come good in T20s, which is interesting as well. So lots happening.
yeah, there's maybe a captaincy play by Smith and some leadership play by Warner. So the good old leadership group might be getting back together.
And by the
Um,
way, Tim David going to play in Australian colors, which is a whole different thing too. Tim David,
yeah, because someone said that he's making his international debut. That's not true because he's
he's
obviously
making his
played for
international debut for Australia.
yeah, but he's played for Singapore before, right?
That's
So
correct. Yeah.
and interestingly, someone else has just given up their. Speaking of Tim David, obviously, I thought about central contracts and stuff. Remember,
Jimmy
Trent Bolt had
Neesham.
given up. Jimmy Neesham's just given
Yeah.
his central contract up to play commitments to T20 leagues. This is what we spoke about a few weeks ago, man, on the show that more and more people are going to start thinking about becoming T20 freelancers. Someone like a Tim
Hmm.
David who doesn't have a central contract and goes around the world playing leagues. Someone like a Chris Gale who got so much hate for it. Andrew Russell, these guys got hate for it. But this
Yeah,
is
they were
becoming
just the
more and more
first
the
ones. I
model.
mean, even now, Sunil Narayan is having issues with the board where Desmond Haynes made a statement about him not playing the World Cup, and because he didn't respond, or didn't, wasn't adequately in touch with the boards and things. So yeah, I think this is just the way it goes now. It's going to be fascinating.
Absolutely
But
brilliant.
but anyway, three T20s, India Australia predictions.
Uh, 2-1 to India.
Yeah,
I
I
think
think
we're
the
playing
same.
good cricket. I think we're
I was
playing
going to
good
predict the
cricket. It's a
same. I
very
mean,
safe prediction, though, isn't it? Like, you can't really say Australia is going to beat us. You've got to account for the one
we
odd
just lost the Asia Cup, right?
15 bad minutes of cricket.
But we just lost
See,
the Asia
but
Cup
we've
pretty.
forgotten that we lost the Asia Cup because Kohli scored 100 and then
That's
Pakistan
true.
didn't win.
That's true.
So we're
So
like all
all
happy because Sri Lanka's like, good job, guys.
that's true. We were pretty happy. If we have to lose, we were happiest to lose, I think, to Sri Lanka, maybe followed by Afghanistan. So
Yeah, Pakistan won one more game than us, which was Afghanistan, right? Which were those two Naseem Shah sixes.
that's what in your head. That's all that it's come down to.
That's it.
Forget that we
That's
should have
all it
won
is.
the Asia Cup. We
I'm
should
all
have at least hit
pumped
the
for October
final.
23. I'm there, boys, wearing my India jersey, the new
That's going
one.
to be great. You should go live from the stadium, but we'll think about that a little bit later. For now, let's take a quick break and we'll come back and talk about the women's series. Welcome back to the Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast. If you're still with us on YouTube, you realize we didn't go anywhere for the break, but that just makes it easier for us, for those of our listeners who are on the podcast. And again, if you're with us on YouTube, please hit the like button and subscribe at the bottom. It really helps us grow. Right, DJ, there's been a lot going on in England, obviously. It's been in the news across the world, etc. But what we do know is that despite some of the football matches or soccer matches, depending on what part of the world you're in, being cancelled in the first weekend, etc., we have seen the continuation of India versus England women. It has not been without controversy, right? The first T20 that happened, India ended up losing. Harman said the conditions were not 100%. Ground was too wet. There were chances of getting injured. We had injuries. So obviously a little bit bitter that they were kind of forced into playing despite conditions not being perfect. But I mean, where it stands right now, the India women lost the T20 series 2-1, which was just our prediction now, pretty safe. But England won the first one, India won the second, pretty convincingly, I might add, and then England won the third. And then the ODIs have just started. At the time of recording this, only one ODI has completed. And India won it convincingly, thanks to some heroics by Smriti Mandana at the top of the order, who was very unlucky to miss out on a century. So let's start with, talk me through the kind of T20 series. Did you get a chance to watch any of it or much of it? And
Yeah.
what's your take
Yeah.
on kind of the first match and the comments on the ground, etc.?
So the first match, I think it was at Durham, right? Which is probably the coldest ground where international cricket is played in England, and it's been cold in England this week. It's been rainy. It's been cold. Summer's definitely gone,
Hmm.
and there was rain. That's why it started a bit late, And I mean, India, we kind of crawled to 133, and they were absolutely appalling in the field. There's no other way of describing that. India were horrific in the field, and Radha Yadav went off with an injury to her shoulder. She's one of the better fielders and a bowler. And then I thought the comments that Herman made were probably unnecessary at that stage. You didn't lose the game because the ground wasn't fit to play on.
Hmm.
India lost the game because they dropped catches, took a wicket off a no ball. I think Renuka took a wicket in the first over of a no ball, and like England just thrashed it. Um, what I don't like is captains coming out and blaming conditions. It's the kind of what like Kohli said right in the 2019 World Cup as well. I don't want to draw comparisons between the men's and women's game, but it's like, oh, there was one short boundary. Who cares?
Yeah.
It's the same conditions for everyone. Everyone's playing. If you didn't want to play it, you should have complained to the umpires before the game, not in the media after the game. I
So
thought that was poor form from
I
us.
believe they did, by the way. That's my understanding. But also, I mean, what is your point of view? Even if you lose badly, and like maybe she should have just said, "Hey, we lost. We played bad cricket. It's fine." But also worth noting, right? There's a slight difference, and that's the what makes good captains uh, also good at handling the media and stuff. But maybe it should have just been handled slightly differently, right?
But it may be a communication thing as well. I mean, often you have to. These guys get media training, but they're not. They're not debaters or they're not
Sure.
spokespersons, right? So maybe, and there's always. I mean, the English media is good at blowing up a good soundbite too. So that was the that we didn't play good cricket in that game. Similarly, we won the second game quite convincingly. I don't think there was much to talk about. Smriti, man,
Smriti again,
she's
right? Yeah.
you know, I was watching the pre-game broadcast, which I don't think you even get in India. You got it on
Mm,
Sky over here.
yeah.
Dominic Cock called her the best batter in the world.
Wow. That's wow. Yeah. I
The
mean,
best batter in the world. And
she's got
he
to be up
compared
there,
her
but
to
that's still a
Ganguly, who Dominic Cock is obviously bowled to.
yeah. That's pretty amazing.
And it
I
felt so
mean,
proud, like as an
yeah,
Indian fan, to like hear that one of your batters is the best in the world.
that's pretty
I mean, obviously
incredible,
you have the
actually.
Kohlis and the Tendulkars in the men's game, but like it's great to hear that accolade being given to Smriti, which is just awesome.
Yeah, she made a magnificent 79. I think it was a great performance. Again, just like took the game away from England, and it made the
Yeah.
third T20. It was a nice little piece of revenge after the weird comments about the pitch and all that, but then made the third T20 exciting. Unfortunately, neither she nor the any of the top order Indian batters could handle Sophie Eccleston or Sarah Glenn um, in that 30-20 right? So India ended up
Mm.
crumbling to 122 for 8, and
That
England
was
finished.
also, I mean, I watched that game and it was painful. It was
Let's be
actually
clear, right?
painful.
I watched the highlights. It was like 70 something for 7, right? Or 50 something for 6. So
It
getting to
was, we got
122,
30 for 4 in 10 overs.
35
I
for
don't know
5,
when the,
right? In 10 overs. Like, so
how
yeah,
much?
I
How much?
mean 35 for 5 in 10 overs, right? So
Insane.
sitting here saying 122 is pretty impressive thanks to some lower ordered.
Richa.
Yeah, Richard batted great. It was ably backed by Pooja Vastrakar, but just unbelievable that after winning on the high of a phenomenal win in the second T20, you end up crumbling. So that
Yeah.
happens. Unfortunately, we've said this before. India's women's T20 team doesn't probably get to play quite enough cricket to be able to perform in these big must-win matches and things like that. It's not an excuse. I
Yeah.
think obviously an exceptionally
No,
talented
but
side, but yeah.
two things on that. One, we haven't won a bilateral series for a long time other than against Sri Lanka. So there
Mm,
are, I mean, we seem to be
yeah.
doing decently at the like multilateral tournaments. Again, not to compare, but better than what the men's version has been doing. But you say they should be playing more cricket. Smriti actually came out and said she might miss the WBBL because she's wants to take like time off because she feels that she's not at full fitness because she's playing too much cricket. So I don't know. I mean, maybe more cricket isn't the answer,
I
but
mean, I think it's the highest level, right? Is what you're saying. So between we basically
yeah.
go bilaterals to World Cup, then they're flying to the UK to play, then they're flying to Australia to play. Like, yes,
Mm,
you're right. It's not sustainable to for the top, call it 8 or 9 Indian women to be playing all the formats. So I think
mm,
equivalently, they just need to make sure you're focused on the right ones, right? Does Smriti need to play the bilaterals unless it's against England or Australia? Potentially not, right? Actually, we
mm,
just got a comment in from Vasant Narayan, which says the issue with women cricket is they're dependent on Harman and Mandana. It isn't about pressure. It's more about having talent. We need more talent like Smriti, right? So I think the more you have, thanks for sending the comment in. The more you have bench strength, the more you have depth, the more you can say like, yeah, we don't need to pick and we don't need to play every single series, but we need our best women playing the best series, in my opinion.
Yeah. And Richa Ghosh has been impressive as well in this series. She had an absolute. I think we took one wicket in the first T20, and she had an absolute blinder of a stumper down the leg side. It was quite something. It was a little bit like the Dinesh Karthik stumping that made all the hoardings where he's flying horizontal to the ground. Not as spectacular, but it was pretty similar. It was very very cool. I'm actually going to watch the third ODI, which is Julan Goswami's retirement game
Oh,
next
that's
week on
awesome.
Saturday. So I'm going to be at
That's good.
Lord's watching that in the ground.
That's going to be great. Make sure you take lots of pictures, put it all on socials and stuff. But
Yeah,
yeah, and so the first ODI just happened. DJ, I think nice start after a tough T20 loss, right? But I won't go through it in too much. Julan picked up a wicket, which was nice to see. Pretty decent effort from the bowlers. Deepthi bowled really well. And of course, Julian picked up a wicket for 20 runs in her 10 overs, right? So very, very economical. And yeah, get restricted the England women to 227. And Smriti, despite Shefali getting out in the second over of the game, Smriti and Yastika made it look easy. Yastika
yeah.
couldn't finish it off, and Harman came out also made 74. So a nice knock, good to see. Knowing how these series go, potentially we'll lose the second ODI, so that you're set up to watch I
Oh
hope
yeah,
we don't, but that's just what history dictates.
yeah. Well, let's see. I mean, it's nice for, but Shefali's also struggled. She struggled this tour of England. I
Mhm.
don't know what it is with. She's struggled in the field. We haven't looked great in the field. I don't know. Um, Slightly worrying signs. I think the Women's Asia Cup is coming up soon as well. So hopefully some of that can be rectified by then. But yeah, until
Yeah,
I guess the IPL comes in and you have a larger pool of players where you can rotate players more easily, you're going to have people getting injured, as you said with Smithy and stuff. It's going to be hard to manage their workload.
yeah. So with that, I think that covers mostly everything that's been going on in the world of international cricket. Funnily enough, there's a couple of uh, let's call it older or retired guy series going on. The Road Safety World Series is on. I always think it's interesting when you have a team called India Legends and you have some guys. I'm not going to be mean and say who, but there's some
Is it the
guys in there.
Legends League or the World Safety Series
No,
that we're
I'm
talking
talking
about?
about the
There's two
Road
different
Safety World.
ones, no?
There's two different ones. The Road Safety World
Uh,
Series is India Legends versus South Africa Legends, etc. Half those matches, I think, have been rained out, unfortunately. Stuart Binney was man of the match in our first one, if I remember. I
yes.
saw Binney. I just assumed it was Stuart and not Roger. But
Oh,
yeah, no, it's Stuart Binney, of
Roger
course.
will be like 80 now, 70
Uh,
something.
Anyway, Sachin didn't quite show up in that first match. I'm not going to cover more of it. But then I also realized, unrelated, there's something called Legends League cricket, where India Capitals played against Gujarat Giants. And Callis is captaining the India Capitals team, in which Ashley Nurse made a century. And Sehwag is captaining the Gujarat Giants team, in which Kevin O'Brien made a century. I'm just confused, man. There's just too much cricket going on, never-ending cricket. There's a lot happening. But if you need something to watch while Team India hasn't been playing, tune in to watch some of these.
Ashwin, I've just put a comment on your screen.
All right. What better way to wrap up our episode, right? So, um, I'll read it out. Bharat Vadva, thank you for writing in. Thanks for listening live as well. But it says, "Hi guys, this is my favorite podcast. After IndieCast, finding you guys, especially DJ, has been my find of the decade. That is
Find of the
incredible.
decade. I mean, it's
Yeah,
only two years in, but yes, hopefully we maintain that for the next 8 years.
yeah, what a wonderful note to end that on. So DJ, thank you for joining me this week. It's been fun to catch up, even though there hasn't been as much happening. By the time we're here next, at least two of the T20s will be done, maybe all three. And so hopefully India comes out victorious and sets up well for the upcoming World Cup. But that
Yeah,
brings us to our wrap. Thank you everybody for tuning in on YouTube. Again, final time, if you're listening on YouTube, please like and hit the subscribe button. If you are on a podcast, please reach out to us at One Tip One Hand, number one TIP, number one hand, at all social medias, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, etc. And please make sure you leave us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you listen. We will be back You asking 10 stars? DJ's asking for 10 stars if those
Yeah, you
exist.
can do it twice. Once on Spotify and once on Apple.
Oh,
So I
great. If you
want
want to leave
10
us 10
stars.
stars, please leave us 10 stars. And we will be back next week. Thanks to everybody for tuning in.